There was a time when made by Boeing meant something sacred. It meant excellence, safety, and pride. From the planes that fought in World War II to the jets that carried astronauts' families to Cape Canaveral, Boeing wasn't just a company, it was the heartbeat of American innovation. But on two ordinary mornings, 5 months apart, that trust fell out of the sky. Two brand-new 737 MAX aircraft plunged into the ground, killing everyone on board. 346 lives lost, and what investigators discovered afterward would reveal a chilling truth, that Boeing's pursuit of profit had become more dangerous than the skies themselves. This is not just an aviation story. This is a story about pride, pressure, and the cost of forgetting what made Boeing great. For nearly a century, Boeing was the gold standard. Founded in 1916 by William E. Boeing, it started with wooden seaplanes and grew into a global titan. The company built the B-17, the 707, and the 747, the very aircraft that defined modern travel. Every engineer knew the mantra: if it's not safe, it doesn't fly. Boeing's culture was one of meticulous design, caution, and respect for pilots. Its home in Seattle became a shrine to precision. But the 1990s changed everything. Wall Street's obsession with short-term profits reached Boeing. Shareholders demanded faster returns. And in 1997, Boeing merged with McDonnell Douglas, a decision that many employees now call the beginning of the end. McDonnell Douglas executives brought a new mentality: finance first, engineering second. Boeing's leadership shifted from innovators to investors, and soon the people designing the airplanes no longer had the final say. By 2010, Airbus was winning. Its new A320neo promised lower fuel costs and higher efficiency, irresistible to airlines. When American Airlines placed a massive order with Airbus in 2011, Boeing panicked. They needed an answer fast, but building an all-new aircraft would take up to 10 years. Executives made a fateful choice. Rather than start fresh, they would retrofit the old 737. They'd give it bigger engines, promise better performance, and most importantly, convince airlines that pilots wouldn't need new training. It was marketed as the 737 MAX, a modern miracle that required no costly simulator sessions. Behind closed doors, engineers warned the modifications could change the plane's balance, but management brushed it off. The sales pitch, no new training needed, was too valuable to lose. To mask the plane's new behavior, Boeing installed a program called MCAS, Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. If sensors detected the nose rising too high, MCAS would automatically push it down. The problem? It relied on just one sensor, a single point of failure. And Boeing never told pilots it even existed. They believed what they were told, that the MAX flew just like the 737s they already knew. It was a decision that saved Boeing millions and cost hundreds of lives. October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 took off from Jakarta with 189 people on board. 12 minutes later, it vanished from radar. Witnesses saw smoke and debris falling into the Java Sea. In the cockpit, the pilots had battled an invisible force, the plane itself. The flight recorder revealed the nose being forced downward again and again. Every time the pilots pulled back, MCAS activated and pushed harder. The system had been triggered by a faulty sensor feeding false data. At Boeing's Chicago headquarters, the reaction wasn't horror, it was defensiveness. Executives suggested Indonesian pilots lacked training. Internally, engineers demanded answers, but management told them to stay quiet until investigations were over. Publicly, Boeing assured airlines the MAX was safe. Privately, emails surfaced showing employees joking about deceiving regulators. One wrote, "Would you put your family on a MAX simulator-trained aircraft?" Another replied, "No, no one would." March 10, 2019, 5 months later, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 took off from Addis Ababa with 157 souls on board. 6 minutes later, it slammed into the ground. Again, the nose had been forced downward. Again, MCAS had taken control. Now there was no doubt. The same software, the same flaw, the same cover-up. As images of the wreckage spread worldwide, countries began grounding the 737 MAX. One by one, China, the EU, Canada, until even the US FAA was forced to act. It was an unprecedented moment. The pride of American aviation grounded indefinitely. Inside Boeing, panic turned to damage control. Executives lobbied the FAA to restore confidence. Internal memos revealed deliberate efforts to downplay MCAS. A 2016 message showed one pilot writing, "I basically lied to the regulators unknowingly." Congress launched hearings. Families of victims demanded accountability. When CEO Dennis Muhlenberg faced lawmakers, he repeated, "We own that responsibility." But minutes later, he dodged direct questions about greed and safety. He was removed from Boeing months later, leaving with a $60 million golden parachute. For the families who lost loved ones, it was salt in the wound. Their fight wasn't just against Boeing, it was against a system that had let Boeing police itself. How did this happen under the FAA's watch? Over the years, Boeing had gained special status, allowing it to self-certify many safety systems. The watchdog had become the partner. Emails later showed Boeing pressuring FAA officials to limit pilot trainee requirements. One investigator described it as a culture of intimidation. Whistleblowers described design flaws ignored, inspections rushed, and retaliation for speaking out. In 2024, a Boeing engineer named John Barnett was found dead shortly after testifying about safety shortcuts, fueling public suspicion that the old culture never truly changed. Boeing denied wrongdoing, but the narrative was already written. The company once known for safety now stood accused of corporate negligence and moral decay. After 20 months of investigation, the 737 MAX was cleared to fly again in 2021. Software fixes, training updates, and public reassurances followed. But the damage wasn't technical, it was emotional. Airlines hesitated. Passengers Googled the words 737 MAX before every booking. Boeing paid more than $20 billion in settlements, lost sales, and compensation. The U.S. Department of Justice fined the company $2.5 billion for fraud, yet no senior executive spent a day in prison. Meanwhile, Airbus quietly became the world's largest aircraft manufacturer. Boeing, the symbol of American dominance, had fallen from the sky it once owned. The 737 MAX wasn't just a flawed airplane, it was the product of a flawed philosophy, one that traded trust for dividends. Boeing's story is a reminder that engineering and ethics must fly together, that every shortcut has a destination, and that the cost of cutting corners isn't measured in dollars, but in lives. Even now, Boeing faces new production issues and safety warnings. The crisis never fully ended, it simply changed altitude. Boeing once symbolized how high human ambition could soar. Now, it stands as a warning of how low that ambition can fall. When greed becomes your autopilot, you don't just lose direction. You lose everything that keeps you in the air.